This week's parsha, we have a pasuk, L'yosef Shevet mi Yehuda mechok me'raglov, that the rod of monarchy will not leave Yehuda until Mashiach comes, and so on. And this is both a nevuah and also a prohibition that you cannot usurp Yehuda's reign. And once he becomes the monarch, anybody from that tribe, that's what monarchy is supposed to be. The Ramban over here has elaborates on an extraordinary phenomenon that Klal Yisrael experienced, something that has a lot of um, difficult feelings, and that is the Chashmonaim. On the one hand, we just coming off Hanukkah, and the Chashmonaim were the heroes. They were the ones that stood up to the Ivanim. They were Moshe Nefesh, and they restored Klal Yisrael's Torah, Avoda, and so on. And yet, they met a terrible end. Um, their families disintegrated, got killed. The Gemara told the point where the Gemara says that there was no one left from the house of Hashmonai. It really was a very, very tragic chapter in Klal Yisrael's history. People who were the great saviors ended up in oblivion at some point. Not they didn't have oblivion, but the kids and everything disintegrated and fell apart. So Ramban has 2 points to make as to why this happened. One of them is, he said, because they transgressed this prohibition of Lo Yosef Shevet mi Yehuda, that monarchy shall never leave Yehuda. And he says, I just would like to quote the words. He says, Ki hoyu chaside elyon. He speaks about the Chashmonaim. He says they were extraordinarily pious people. If not for them, Torah would have become forgotten from Israel. Still, they suffered a terrible punishment. They were killed out. And disintegrated. And then he says, because they transgressed this. Now, that's one point that he makes as to why it happened. And the second point is, it could be that the reason why they're retaining the monarchy, their persistence in being the kings, he says, Mipnei shoy kahanim, titstavu v'nitztavu tishmu askunasem chol dvar mizbeach, they had on them the injunction to stay in the Beis Hamikdash and do Avodas Hashem. They checked out. They should not have become kings. They should have remained in Beis Hamikdash. I want to speak a little bit about this in a specific way and then broader way. So Ramban is offering two explanations, and both of them have a similar point to it. The point is, Shvatim are supposed to stay with whatever duty that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave these Shvatim. Every Shevet has its own mission, and one is supposed to stay with it. So taking monarchy away from Yehuda means that we are taking away, we're taking from Yehuda, but it's a lot more than just we're robbing Yehuda of their chance or whatever it is. Yehuda is the tribe that is fit to be the monarchs. Whatever qualities that a monarch needs to have, Shevet Yehuda has that. That's the way Hashem made it. And therefore, if we keep it away from them, the monarchy itself suffers. And the monarchy itself, it does not go well with those who are not of Shevet Yehuda. So when Ephraim broke off, or if Rabbi Nevat broke off, and he made his own malchus, it was a catastrophe. The Malchei Yehuda, there were many of them that were not righteous, but in the long run, Malchus Yehuda is the true Malchus of Yisrael. So usurping it from its right address does not deal well. A monarchy that's not Yehuda is doomed to failure. Now, they certainly were right in taking on the battle and leading Klal Yisrael and so on. But at some early point, they should have bowed out and given it to Yehuda. Now, the flip side of it is that he says a kohen should be doing the avoda all the time, and someone who is a kohen should not believe it, even for malchus. Now, so somebody will ask, kind of foolishly, well, which is more important? Is it more important to be a king, or is it more important to be a priest, a kohen? Which one is more chashuv? I should always be aiming for what's more chashuv. So if malchus is more chashuv, then they should have been running to be malchus and let the kahuna be. This is much greater accomplishment. You're running Klal Yisrael, you're saving Klal Yisrael, doing for everyone and whatever. If it's the other way around, that malchus, that kahuna is more important, then what's wrong with them taking over the malchus? They're quote unquote better at it. And the answer is both those statements, both those questions are based on a fallacy. If Avodas Hashem there was one path with sort of markers of important, more important, extremely important, top important, then these questions could be asked. But that's not at all like it. Avodas Hashem is different elements of Avoda. And neither, it's like asking what's more important in a person, the heart or the lungs or the brain or the kidneys. The answer is missing any one of them, you're dead. And kidney tissue is uniquely suited for doing what kidneys do. Having two hearts will not replace the kidneys, and having three brains will not replace the heart and the lungs. It doesn't make a difference. So Avodas Hashem is a multifaceted task. Klal Yisrael as a klal can accomplish it, but they divide up. There's a preordained division of labor based on the personal characteristics of each and every Shevet. So the idea of one taking the place of the other doesn't exist. I once heard from a Rabbi of mine. He was by Chavetz Chaim. He heard this from Chavetz Chaim in a shmuz, I think, or it was a conversation. I don't remember what it was, but he saw it. I heard this story. He said that somebody was there was a very wealthy man. There was, I don't know, very wealthy, but a wealthy man in Radin, and he was a big Baltstock, and he supported a lot of things and so on and so forth. One day, the Chavetz Chaim saw him davening at an early minyan where the Yidden would say Tehillim, or I assumed, the way I understood it, it was a type of minyan for tzaddikim type people where they would daven, they were a longer thing. They would say Tehillims, and I gathered it was sort of they said more slichas. It was something of that nature. I don't remember exactly. Chavetz Chaim had an eye about it. He felt, I think he was scared that this person would substitute his personal tzidkis for helping others. And he went over and told him, deserting the army is not only if a person goes and leaves the army and runs off to take it easy in some forest. If you go from shooting a rifle and you, without being told, you go to the cannons to shoot the cannons, that's also desertion. In other words, to go from infantry to artillery without being told or assigned, and vice versa, is also desertion. In other words, Avodas Hashem is something that is specific, and therefore the to say which is better, which is more important, which is greater, is really not it's not a relevant question. Specifically, um, when we don't have Shvatim today that we know of, we don't. No one has the ability to be able to go to Novi or to take a look at Pasuk and say, "Well, I'm from Shevet Naphtali. Somehow I should be doing a Avoda of Naphtali." We don't have that. What we do have is circumstances, station of life, abilities, talents, resources. People have whatever they have. And a person at some point has to ask himself, what is my tafkid? Now, obviously, on a practical level, one will ask a big person to help him, somebody who knows him well and can understand and help guide him. But I'm saying the question asked would be not what's best or more important, but what is being asked of me. And it may be that I heard once from a person told me today actually was Moshe Shapiro's yahrzeit, and someone told me a story with him. This person had become, was very much in business, became very wealthy, and then sometime in the middle of his life, he he said, maybe I could just sit and learn. I'll let the business go. He had enough money to last himself, so on and so forth. He wouldn't be able to generate the type of revenues he was generating, but he would be able to sit comfortably and learn. And he asked Moshe Shapiro if he can or should do it. And Moshe Shapiro told him there are Yisachas in the world and Zvulans. If you can be as good as Yisacha as you are a Zvulun, then that's the right thing. And it's Hashem's job to make sure Yeshua is provided for. But if you're an amazing Zvulun and you'll be an okay Yisacha, you have no right to leave your post and go to do something else. So we don't have exact knowledge of who we are, what we are. But circumstance and guidance of a person worthy of that, it can help us understand it. To say that it's better to do X or Y is really, really not usually the answer. The answer is, what am I most suited to do? Whatever I'm most suited to do, that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from me, and I have to pursue that totally. So Ramban is telling us a tremendous yesod in this pasuk over here. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created Shvatim. He gave them different talents and resources and suited to their mission. Each Shevet has a different mission. Together, all the avoda of all the Shvatim together create Klal Yisrael's totality of avoda, but each Shevet has its own section. Each Shevet has its bracha. Each Shevet has what it is going to, what it has to accomplish, and what it was given, tools it was given to accomplish it. The Shevet needs to stick to that. Usurping something else is a double avla. First of all, you are taking away from the people that can do it best, and you are doing something that's not for you. If having Yehuda do Malchus and Kohanim do Kahuna, it brings the bracha for Klal Yisrael, and that's the ideal that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants.